Hey, how's it going guys? Captain Kuba here and welcome to another God of War video. As you guys know, this channel could not exist without God of War 2018. That game has so many secrets and teases that have kept this community going for 4 years. And while there are still topics that I need to cover from that game, today I want to take a break and talk a little bit about God of War 2, a game that many consider the best in the series. And at first you might think that there's nothing to cover with God of War 2. The story is told in a manner that doesn't get in the way of gameplay. And while the game has cutscenes, it doesn't really bother itself with teasing fans for future entries in the series like God of War 2018 does. But there is one moment in that game that doesn't make much sense. How exactly did the Last Spartan get to the Sisters of Fate temple? As I'm sure you remember, God of War 2's story is all about Kratos going to the Sisters of Fate temple to change his fate. Along the way, he meets characters that have the same goal, the most memorable ones being Perseus and Icarus. But the difference between these characters and the Last Spartan is that they are way more powerful than the Last Spartan. One of them is the son of Zeus, and the other one has wings that Kratos deemed worthy enough to be included in his tools to destroy the gods of Olympus. On the other hand, you have the Last Spartan,
Have come too far to fail,
who is indeed a Spartan warrior and could probably kill Icarus if he stayed on the ground. But to our knowledge, he's just that, a Spartan warrior. Nothing really special about him. So how exactly did he cross the sea when Kratos had to traverse it with Pegasus? Or how did he fight all the monsters on the island without any magic? And on top of that, how did he get to this part of the temple before Kratos did, even though he went to Sparta first? When I first asked all of these questions, I was convinced of two things. Either this is the biggest plot hole in the God of War series, and we were never meant to think too deeply about it, or the Last Spartan was secretly a demigod and thus was able to deal with all the monsters and traps within the island. The latter thought had me really excited, because the Last Spartan is one of those small characters in the series that many fans love. Even to this day, I get asked the question if he was the first Atreus. He obviously wasn't, but this just shows how much fans love this character. And I'm sure many of them would love the plot twist that he was a demigod all along. But sadly, this is not the case. It turns out that Zeus was the missing puzzle piece in answering how the Last Spartan got to the Island of the Fates. This is what the novelization of God of War 2 has to say about this mystery.
How did you penetrate this far into their temple?
I was brought here. A giant eagle caught me in its claws, then dropped me.
Now, I know some of you hear giant eagle and immediately think of the Helheim bird. And on top of that, the Sisters of Fate temple does look pretty similar to the Helheim bird. So I know some of you will start making connections, but this is actually not true. If you remember, in the intro of God of War 2, you will see Zeus surveying the fight against the Colossus in the form of a giant eagle. And once Kratos was weakened by the Colossus, he'd return to his normal form. Now, why exactly did Zeus bring the Last Spartan to the Sisters' Temple? Well, according to the novel, at first Kratos thought Lachesis must have allowed it, so it would serve as the last challenge before he'd reach the inner temple. He thought she was doing this, so Kratos would be forced to choose between his vengeance quest and his beloved Sparta. But then, the Last Spartan said this:
Sparta is no more.
At this point, Kratos realized that he couldn't return to Sparta any longer. He had to face Zeus. He still lacked some confidence in himself, so Gaia had to convince him again, but it all worked out at the end. But now we have to ask ourselves, if this was such an interesting plot twist, why wasn't it included in the game itself? If you remember, the Last Spartan never mentions a giant eagle bringing him to the temple. Why was this left out? Well, I'm sure a lot of you guys are tired of hearing this, but the novels are considered secondary canon, especially the first two. Unlike God of War 2018's novelization, the novel for God of War 2 came out in 2013, 6 years after the game had come out. Unless you say that the writer took some interesting liberties with the novel. For example, at the end of the novel, he includes Atlas among the titans who were brought back from the past to defeat the gods. And this is clearly not the case. Atlas is nowhere to be found in that cutscene. Now, if that topic of Atlas in the novel sounds interesting to you, you can click on this link so you can learn all about it. But getting back to today's video, is it possible this information isn't canon? Is there any hope for the theory of the Last Spartan being a demigod? Something else that's interesting is that he died on top of an engraved phoenix just like Kratos did in God of War 3. Is it possible he could return? Well, the answer to that question is still no in my opinion. Even though the novels are secondary canon, some of the information in them fits too perfectly into the lore of the series to be ignored, like in this instance. Because even if we theorize that the Last Spartan was a demigod, he would have to be faster than Hermes to get to this part of the temple before Kratos got there. In this instance, the novel makes perfect sense when answering an age-old mystery from God of War 2. So there you have it guys, a God of War lore video, something this channel doesn't do much these days. I hope you enjoyed it. Before I go, I want to give a big thanks to AJ, aka Hedgehog, for once again providing the voice of Kratos, as well as Leo Jarris for doing the voice of the Last Spartan. These guys are super talented voice actors, and it's a shame how underrated they are. So if you're someone who's looking for voice actors for an upcoming project, definitely get in touch with these two guys. They are talented and super easy to work with. I will pin both of their social media accounts in the comment section below so you can message them if you need to. Now as always, I want to give a big thanks to all of my members for supporting the channel monthly. People like Young G, Jackson Robert, Bo Butler, Your Friendly Shurag, and Saber Talk, to name a few, are truly the backbone of this channel. I know I'm a broken record, but it's true. You guys are a big part of this channel's success. You know those intros everyone likes? Well, those were created thanks to your support. And trust me, I got a really exciting project in the making that couldn't have been done without your help. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I would also like to thank everyone who likes and shares my videos. I know it doesn't seem like much, but trust me, it really does help. And with that said, don't forget to subscribe for more God of War content, and as always remember, go forth in the name of Ragnarok.